Jasmine.
And I'm Kelly, and we're going to be talking about greenhouse gases and how they lead to melting polar ice caps, the consequences that derive from the melting, and how it continues to affect our environment in a very dangerous way.
First, let me start by explaining what greenhouse gases are and what they do. Greenhouse gases absorb heat, warming the atmosphere around them wherever they are released. Now, it's safe to say that some of these naturally released are released for a good reason. Plants need CO2 in order to produce oxygen, but most emissions are caused by us, humans. Our industries and factories burn fossil fuels, a form of greenhouse gases that warms our environment. One major greenhouse gas that seems to be increasing over the years is CO2. This is because of a cycle of constant release and addition of CO2 into our atmosphere in a never-ending loop. So why are greenhouse gases important to polar ice sheets? Well, the warmer the atmosphere, the faster that these ice sheets will melt, and then we'll be facing more severe environmental problems.
All of our ice caps continue to melt at this rate, there will be many negative environmental consequences. An example of this is that the melting of the polar ice caps is accelerating the rate of surface warming, which contributes to a warmer atmosphere. As the atmosphere continues to warm, the polar ice caps continue to melt, thus creating a positive feedback loop. A positive feedback loop is the situation where an increase in evaporation causes a warmer atmosphere.
Aside from the rising sea level, a warmer atmosphere is bound to be inevitable. The polar ice caps that would reflect the sun rays back into the atmosphere, creating a cooler temperature on Earth, are beginning to shrink. As these ice caps continue to diminish, there will be less surface area to combat these sun rays and reflect them back into the atmosphere.
Due to the melting of ice sheets, there will be less land area for animals to reside and hunt. One major example is that the animals that live in the polar region lose their habitat and homes due to the melting ice sheets. Polar bears and penguins, for example, must learn to adapt to newer regions in order to survive. However, the environment is changing too rapidly for the animals to adapt.
Besides these land animals, marine life is affected by the melting of the polar ice caps as well. Many underwater ecosystems undergo a major change because of different temperatures, different levels of CO2, and changes in the rise of sea levels. Marine life must adapt to these new changes. However, because they are forced to adapt in such a short amount of time, much of the wildlife will die off because of their inability to adapt.
Not only does the melting of ice caps affect the environment, but it can also take a toll on our economy. It has an effect on our economy by destroying agricultural areas along with crops used for consumption. A decrease in our food supply hinders an economy for the worst. When rising sea levels are hot destroying crops, they are potentially destroying major coastal cities. These cities are crucial to our economy and would injure our ability to produce at the same levels prior to the rising sea level.
The melting of polar ice caps causes sea level to rise and is predicted to rise another 0.5 inches in 1 to 2 years. Sea level rise causes loss of habitat for fish, birds, and plants. Destructive erosion also causes sea level to move further inland and coastal cities to flood. The sea level rises in big cities like New York and Miami are at risk of going under. A rising sea level also hurts the economy because as it goes up, homes close to the beach start to lose value and businesses lose money. So if we continue to hurt the environment through the burning of fossil fuels, there will be no turning back in surviving and saving this beautiful planet.
And thank you for coming to our TED Talk.